Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Kotlin series. In this video I'll be teaching about when expressions. Alright everybody, welcome back. So now that we know how to make if statements and also create the conditions for if statements, I want to show you guys how to do when expressions, which are another type of control flow statement. If you're from another language like Java for example, these are going to be called switch expressions or switch statements. What I'm going to do first is give you an actual example of how to use it, and then I'll explain it afterwards, okay? So first we're going to have a variable x is equal to 3, and then we're going to do when, and we're going to autocomplete, put a parentheses, and put x inside of that. And then we're going to open this up with a code block, and then we're going to put some options. So we can say 1, and then we can put a little arrow by doing a dash and then an angle bracket, and then we could print line, run some code. We could say x is equal to 3, or 1, oopsies. And then we could just take this and copy it. So we could have another option 2, another option 3. We can change this to 2 and change this to 3. And that's it. So what is happening here is that we have this when expression, and we're just passing in a variable. And what it will do is match the value of this variable against different options. So the options that we have is 1, 2, and 3. So if it's 1, it's going to run this line of code. If it's 2, it's going to run this line of code. And if it's 3, it's going to run this line of code. Pretty simple, right? So when expressions are similar to if statements, but not exactly the same. So with a when expression, you're going to be checking against different value options to run different code. So instead of having a condition, we're just checking values, all right? So let's go ahead and check out another example. So we're going to do val book. This will be just our favorite book. So we'll say something like Harry Potter. It's not my favorite book, but I'll just use that as an example here. And we'll say when book, so the variable that we're checking the value of, and then we open this up, and then we're going to do some values here. So we can put Hunger Games. So if Hunger Games is the value, then we're going to print line book is the Hunger Games. If Harry Potter is the value, we're going to say print line book is Harry Potter. And then we can keep going. We say the fault in our stars. Never read that, but that's another book that's very popular. Book is the fault in our stars. All right, so these are our three options here. So what is happening here is that we have this variable book, and then it has currently the value of Harry Potter when we initialize it, and then it's going to reach this when expression here. So it's going to check the value of book, see if it matches any of these three options here. If it does, it's going to run the code for whatever option it matched to, all right? And you can add as many of these options as you want to. In the first two cases here, I just have 3, but you can have as many as you want, so I can add a bunch. Another thing that you can do actually though is add an else. So just like with if statements, you can have an else statement. Also with when expressions, you can have an else as well, because this value could be anything, right? It's an int by default, so it can be a huge range of numbers, right? So it's entirely possible that it doesn't match to one of our numbers, right? So what we can do is have a default case. So in other languages it's called default, but for Kotlin it's called else. So we just literally type else, do another arrow, and then we run the code that we want to run if the else is the last option that is selected. So we can go ahead and say x is not equal to any of our options. All right, so just like an if statement, if none of these match the actual value of the variable, then it's going to go ahead and run this else here, all right? Same thing for down here. We don't have to have an else, but if we want to, we can add one. So else, print line, book is none of them. Wow. So that's else's for your when expressions. Another thing that you can do is if you want to, these are very simple examples, right? We're only printing out something that's just one statement of code, so we're just having it after the arrow. But if you want to have multiple statements of code or multiple lines of code for whatever case you're matching to, then what you want to do is just cut this, and then we can open this up as a code block, same way we would do with an if statement. So now that it's a block of code with a opening and closing curly bracket, this can now encompass as much code as you want. It doesn't matter how much you want to have in there. It can be anything, so that's pretty cool. And you only have to do it for the ones that are multiple statements. So it doesn't have to be all of them. It can be just some of them if you want to. So we could do x is equal to 5 after that, something like that, whatever you want to do, okay? But when your when expressions are very simple, then you could simply make it one line and just have it directly next to the arrow, which is cool. Or you can put on the new line. You have a lot of freedom with how you structure things within Kotlin. Maybe you've noticed that by now. You can also use when expressions to check multiple values. So let's say that we want to run the same code for 2 different options, right? So what we could do is, let me just give you an example here. So let's say we have 3 and then we add 4, and we say print line kaboom, and then we change this one to kaboom just as an example here. So currently these two options here, 3 and 4, they run the same code, right? So we can do to simplify this, let's just go up here and do comma 4. So now we can get rid of this one and it will match to any of these. So when it runs this, it'll say, okay, what's the value of x? Does x equal 1? No. Does x equal 2? No. Does x equal 3 or 4? Yes, it does equal 3 or 4. It actually equals 3, so it's just going to run the code for that case. So you can combine these options to add as many as you want. So you could do a bunch, it doesn't really matter, which is pretty awesome. So let's say that we want to run the same code for one of our book options here. So we could take Harry Potter and add that alongside Hunger Games and then get rid of this option. We could say, that's my favorite book too. So that's just another example of combining the options together so that if it matches one of them, it'll run the same code. I want to give you guys another example here. So what we have is a task variable, and this is given just a random task. So this by default is just going to be digging. And then we have this required tool variable that is going to be set to a string. It's uninitialized by default. But what's going to happen is we're going to use our when expression to figure out what the required tool should be. So we're going to say, okay, if it's swimming or running, we're going to need a towel. I know that's a really dumb example. If it's digging or mining, we're going to need a shovel. And then otherwise, if it's not any of those options, we're just going to give them a gun, all right? That's just, the default. Makes sense, right? So this is just a regular when expression. The only thing that's different from the ones that we've done so far is that we're just assigning a variable. So we're assigning the required tool variable instead of printing something out. So it's a little different, but still just a piece of code. It doesn't matter. And if you want to, we can go ahead and test this out. So we could print line, the tool you need is required tool. And we're going to go ahead and run this. And boom, it says the tool you need is a shovel. And so if we change this to swimming, it should now be a towel. And boom, the tool you need is a towel. Awesome. Okay, so the real reason I showed you this example here, even though I called it dumb, is because there's something you can do to actually simplify this. So whenever you have a really basic when expression, what you can do is actually just take this and assign this directly to the variable when you're initializing the variable, or even just reassigning the variable. So what I mean by that is I just go ahead and take this and cut it, Control X, and then after we declare the data type, we can do equal sign and then paste that. And then now we can go here and get rid of this assignment, get rid of this assignment, and get rid of this assignment. We're simply providing the value literal, the string itself that's going to be set as the value for this variable here. So if you just look at it, it kind of makes sense. But if you're from another language, this may look really foreign to you. This may look really weird because you can't do this in other major languages that I'm aware of, okay? So we already have a task, and that's going to be swimming. And then we have required tool. This is going to be a string, but we're immediately assigning it to whatever the result of this when expression is. And the result is going to be specified by whatever it matches to. So whatever it matches to, we're going to just provide a literal here, and that's going to be the value for this variable, okay? So that's just a way that you can simplify this within Kotlin. So if we go ahead and run this again, we should still get towel as the required tool, and yes, we do. Something important to note, though, is that because this has to be a string, and this is not a nullable string, this has to have a value, okay? If we're going to be initializing it from the get-go with this when expression here. So if you remove this else here, there's no default value now. So if it doesn't match to any of these 4 options here, what is the value of required tool going to be, right? There's nothing being set. So we have to have an else. That's why there's a red squiggly here. It says when expression must be exhaustive, add necessary else branch. So we can go ahead and add it by clicking this, and we can have it as a block of code, or we can just have it as a single line of code, and we can put gun back. So make sure you have an else whenever you're assigning one of these variables with the when expression, okay? And that's pretty much it. That's all I want to show you for when expressions. Hopefully you find them pretty cool. I think they're pretty interesting. The syntax of them is much nicer than other languages where you have switch statements. They are very similar to if statements in the sense that, you can run different code depending on different options. But in this case, these options are just simply going to be values that you're checking against a variable. So whenever you need to do a situation like that, then you use a when expression, okay? But yeah, you guys should know how to create a when expression now, how to combine options together. So you can do it like this if you want to. You can also make it a code block if you have multiple lines of code that you want to run from one of these options. And then finally, I showed you guys how to directly assign a variable using a when expression. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching, everybody. So that's it for this video, everybody. I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to also check the description below for important links to code and other resources, but also really important, join our Discord. We have a big community of over 5,000 programmers, and it's a place where you can find new friends or get help on any code that you're stuck on. If you want to support what I do on this channel, please consider hitting the join button below, and this will allow you to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, but there are different tiers to choose from if you want to. For anyone that becomes a member on my channel, you get a special rank on my Discord server, early access to new videos, and you can just see yourself on the screen right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. Thank you so much. And that's it. Peace.